Welcome, everybody. My name is Julie Betts, and I am the Communications Director with AARP Iowa, coming to you from my attic. We are talking about reclaiming healthy habits. We have a panel of experts with us today, and so I would like to go ahead and introduce them. Harley Buck, Dr. Buck is new, right, to the Kasome Center of Gerontological Excellence at the College of Nursing at the University of Iowa. So welcome, Leah, to the event today.
Thank you.
And we also have with us Jamie Haberl. She is the Executive Director of the Iowa Healthy Estate Initiative. Welcome, Jamie.
Good morning.
Peggy Hooper is the Executive Director at the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Iowa, which is also known as NAMI, Iowa. Welcome, Peggy.
Thanks for having me.
And Mary Van Hukelum, she is the Program Director for Above and Beyond Cancer and leads Optimal Living for Cancer Survivor programs there. So welcome, Mary.
Thanks, Julie. It's nice to be working with AARP again.
It's so great to see everyone this morning. Thank you for sharing your tips to reclaim healthy habits as we're all sort of climbing our way out of our pandemic slump. I know that I took a walk after work yesterday because I was inspired by compiling all of your tips. Brad, do you want to take us?
Sure, thanks, Julie. And what an awesome panel. Thank you all for joining us here at AARP for this quick discussion. Dr. Buck, I want to start with you. You know, social isolation was a big problem before 2020, and then 2020 was like the gasoline on the fire that is social isolation. So it just became more intense. And I'm curious your thoughts on what did we learn over the last 15 months of this intense social isolation, and how can we come out of it even more connected to our community and our friends and family?
Thank you for asking me about that, Brad. What's really interesting is the National Institutes of Health, prior to the pandemic, had identified that social isolation in older adults had mortality deficits equal to smoking. And that it really is, we're social beings. And so anytime we're not connected to each other, it has real ramifications for our health. I think what the pandemic has done is that it has given perhaps younger adults a taste of what it must feel like. And so coming out the other end, what I'm hoping is that all of us in the state of Iowa will become much more intentional about those social behaviors of re-engaging with groups that are important to us, whether they're community groups or faith communities. And that in particular, we will pay attention to the older adults that we don't think about or they're not as visible. And once again, it's that idea of intentionality, of reaching out, offering a ride, perhaps to a community meeting, figuring out who always shows up at the coffee shop and isn't there that morning. Think about those ways to really strengthen our social ties and decrease social isolation.
You know, that's a really good point. We all got a taste of social isolation and did not like it one bit. I will say that. So I appreciate your thoughts on that, kind of looking out for people and seeing who may be suffering and intentionally reaching out to them. Peggy, I'm curious, as a mental health expert, you know, we've had a lot of focus on the physical side of COVID, but I think we're all kind of struggling with understanding the full mental health impact that COVID has had. And now that we've got this light at the end of the tunnel, I'm wondering your thoughts on, as Dr. Buck mentioned, you know, the importance of this human face-to-face interaction. And specifically, what is your advice to older Iowans who may be vaccinated but are still a little hesitant to have that face-to-face interaction?
Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and
I know that Jamie has been doing a lot of work around Make It Okay to talk about it, which we know is the first step. So we know that to amplify on what Dr. Buck said, the isolation is the enemy of good mental health. And NAMI is built on the idea of connection, right? So we offer classes and support groups and presentations. And before the pandemic, 95% of that was done in person. So we've had to make a big adjustment in how we do our work. We have, for the most part, successfully switched to virtual, but it's been tough because I like to say we're huggers. We love to hug people and be in person, and of course that's the best way to be able to provide support. But virtual is better than nothing, and so we've tried to make do with that. And I also like to talk about how it's not just the pandemic. We have to understand all that we've been through in the last 14 months. I say not just the pandemic, like that's not a big thing. Of course it is. It's affected everyone. But we've also in Iowa had drought. We've had the derecho, which literally came out of the sky. I was sitting in my office looking out my window to the west and saw it coming at us. It went right over our house. We were down in our basement and it was like being in the Wizard of Oz. We were watching things fly past us and crashing, and it was just terrifying. And you saw pictures of what it looked like coming. So there was that. And then there was the election, right? The most contentious election in modern American history. It divided families, it divided friends. It caused a lot of anxiety and angst. And it didn't end the day after the election. It kept on going. A lot of people told me that they watched the events unfold on January 6th and were genuinely frightened about the future of our country. So all those things are collective. And actually, older folks, what we're finding, have a better capacity to absorb them and deal with them than younger people. So one of my suggestions is those of us of a certain age and older who have some life experience, and for the most part, as frightening and as difficult as these things have been, know that they will pass and we will continue, can help out younger people in our lives and provide some perspective and reach out, because one of the best things to help us is to help others. Young people have been denied the connection and the social interaction that allows them to grow and develop, and they're really suffering. And so think beyond yourself. And I think it's okay, as the CDC has said now, to get out and interact with folks and not be fearful. Think about how you can reach out and help someone in your life or in some way make things better for others who have been through this.
Peggy, thank you so much. You mentioned Jamie, and just exactly what you were saying. Jamie had included in her tips, check in with your friends. What can I do to support you? How are you doing today? So I love all of the themes that cross amongst all of the list of tips that we have from our experts. But Jamie, another tip, and this sort of then crosses into Mary's tips as well, get outside and walk. And so that's, to me, also this reconnection with your community is just, getting outside and spending time outside, checking in with neighbors. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think we often underestimate, the value of nature, but then also the value and the ease of walking, and so we often tell everyone, getting those 30 minutes a day by walking is the best way to get your physical activity, so it's the easiest way to get physical activity. It's the most affordable way to get activity because really you don't have to have all the specialized equipment. And you can really benefit a lot by being outside in nature. There's plenty of research that shows the impact, not only your physical health, but also your mental health. And it's one of the things that all of us can be doing of all different ages as well. And it's a great way to connect with your neighbors and with your community, by just getting out and walking on those sidewalks and saying hello. As we've been kind of locked up in our houses for the last, year, it's a great way to reconnect with your community members. And so it is really the easiest way for all of us to kind of rejoin back into our community by getting back outside, by connecting with our neighbors, with our colleagues and our friends, and asking them, how are they doing and how can we help each other kind of come out of the pandemic and move into what, I want to say a new normal going forward as well.
Thanks so much for that. And Mary, talk about, for me, breathing, because I have experienced your meditative sessions before, but could you just talk a little bit about breath and how that impacts our health?
Yeah, thanks. Great question, Julie. Thanks for the segue. Yeah, breathing and focus on diaphragmatic breathing is so crucial for our physical and mental health. It's another one of those activities that hits all of those check boxes. And people may have heard of the parasympathetic nervous system. That is the part of our nervous system that allows us to calm down and to reduce stress, to reduce inflammation, to reduce pain. And one of the best ways to get that nervous system ignited is by deep breathing. So there's a lot of breathing techniques out there. One of my favorites is what is called controlled breathing, or the 4-7-8 breath, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and exhale for 8. And there's been a lot of research behind that quality of breath, and doing that a few times, how that can really signal the vagus nerve in our body, which connects our brain to our liver and our digestion and our heart and our lungs. And so something as simple as that has big benefits. And every little thing that we can do, small little habits that we can implement day to day, really grow and snowball into marvelous big changes. So just as Jamie said, if we can get outside for a little bit, or as Peggy mentioned, ways that we can reach out to people, every little thing that we do can move the needle on our mental and physical well-being. And deep breathing can help calm anxiety as well. So coming out of the pandemic, I know some people still are a little anxious about being around crowds and getting out and becoming less isolated. So breathing can help calm the mind and help prepare yourself for that transition as well. And I just want to again reinforce, getting outside is a very safe way to be able to reconnect, and can help transition if you're still not comfortable going into a class or a more dense space with population, that utilizing the outdoors and utilizing Iowa parks and all the beautiful trails that we have can be a nice transition for that. And going outside and practice breathing outside, you get a double benefit of absorbing the benefits of being in nature and also practicing your diaphragm breathing. There are classes out there called forest bathing that emphasize mindfulness and meditation while being outside. You can check in with your local park department or your conservation county departments and see what they have for outdoor programming. Above and Beyond Cancer has a lot of great outdoor programming that combines breathing practices and stretching practices while we hike or engage in outdoor activity. So I really encourage people to look into those local outdoor programs that allow you to connect with nature, connect with others, and then maybe they have some added stretching and meditation practices as well.
That's a great tip. And the breathing that you talked about earlier, Mary, I mean, that's only a couple minutes a day can be really helpful, right? Just in the morning, doing those exercises.
Yeah, 100%. And it's always a great way to start small, in my opinion, with when you're incorporating new healthy habits. So if, you know, Jamie's right, we want to aim for 30 minutes a day, but if 30 minutes seems like too much of a jump, then, you know, give yourself a commitment of 10 minutes a day of walking. And the same with breathing. If starting a meditation class for a whole 45 minutes seems daunting, start with a commitment of 5 deep breaths every day and allow yourself to notice and build on those small changes. And you'll understand how it affects your energy, your mood, your well-being, and you'll just crave and want to do it naturally more. You'll be more motivated, self-motivated to add your duration on all of those wonderful examples of habits that people have already shared.
Well, I've got one. Oh, Dr. Buck, were you going to say something?
Yes, what I was going to say is, as we age, sometimes we have more difficulty either getting to sleep or staying asleep. And those breathing exercises actually in the middle of the night are very powerful for returning you back to a restful sleep state. So don't think of them just as something you do outside or maybe to get your day started. Think of them as ways to self-soothe when you're trying to get back to sleep.
That's a great point. I have one rapid fire question, which I know I didn't get approved through Julie, but I'm just curious your thoughts on this. And so we'll just go around, starting with Dr. Buck, and then kind of the same order that we just went in. And my rapid fire question is this: if after 15 months of watching Netflix, what is the one healthy habit you would recommend to replace watching Netflix on your couch? And we'll start with Dr. Buck.
That's a really interesting question, Brad. And one of the thoughts that come in is the fact that moderation is really what we should all seek. It's not that Netflix is probably the problem, it is the binge watching. And I'm waiting to see we do standing desks at work now to decrease sedentary behavior, that the first person who talks about standing Netflix might be on to something new. So that's what also is very interesting from the children's end of the science is that they show that video games that are powered by Pelotons, in other words, the child has to pedal for the game to work, that maybe for adults with Netflix, something like that as well.
My son would hate you for that, but that's a great advice. Peggy, what's your tip?
My tip would be get up and phone a friend and move while you're doing it, because we all have mobile phones. They're called mobile for a reason. So and phoning, kind of went out of vogue there for a while. It's old fashioned, but I think we've rediscovered it during the pandemic. And the value, you don't have to Zoom for everything. It's okay sometimes just to phone a friend and to reconnect and ask how they're doing. And it's not as hard as physically meeting them somewhere. And although you could arrange that, but then you're also moving at the same time. So that's my tip.
Yeah, I would agree with Peggy on the We say do walking meetings instead of Zoom meetings. So, get on the phone. But, another thing that we always encourage Iowans is it's important to learn something new every day. And so I think getting out and doing a walk and listening to podcasts are a great way to learn something new, but then you're also getting that physical activity. So it's kind of that 2-for-1, similar to phone a friend and get out and walk. So something easy, it gets you off the couch and you can learn something new that isn't just on Netflix either.
So my rapid tip is the same. I would definitely say get outside. And if you can pre-plan an opportunity to, again, call a friend, do it with them or join a group. One of the biggest things I've heard from community members and cancer survivors who've been participating in our outdoor programming all during the pandemic is they said this has made the biggest difference in their life, taught them that they could get outside all year round in Iowa, but also the connection and getting them out of that isolation bubble. So start with a trusted person that you're going to feel comfortable with, work yourself up. I love the idea of going new places. One of the best things we can do for our brain is to expose ourselves to some new things. And you'll find that inner child still in you that you can have fun with and adventure, get dirty, get outside. And just be playful with it and allow some of those stressors to roll off the shoulders, so to speak.
Great. Well, thank gosh, this has been awesome. Thank you all so much for agreeing to do this, and really excellent tips from obviously some of the most highly qualified experts in the state of Iowa. So again, thank you for taking the time with AARP. I just want to say on behalf of older Iowans across the state, thank you all for all that you're doing. And if you have any questions about AARP, obviously, and what we're doing in the state of Iowa, just go to aarp.org/IA, and you'll get a list of activities. We're in virtual mode now, but we are going to switch to in-person mode here, hopefully, in the late summer, early fall. And so expect some more for more events and exciting things to do from AARP. So thank you all for your time, and appreciate everything you're doing.